To see the fully uncut version of this video, head over to patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons.
What's that like to live deliciously? Chaos reigns.
Please don't scream.
I said, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
What's going on? My name is Jonjo Lyons, and today I'm here to present to you my review for Grotesque, aka Grotesque. Written and directed by Koji Shiraishi, Grotesque stars... All of these lot. That was for you, Effie, alright? A doctor kidnaps a young couple and forces them into a game of torment that slowly extinguishes their hopes for survival. Grotesque is a film that I remember watching back in my early 20s when I was still naive to the truly awful nature of this world. I mean, I thought I was going to be a famous rapper, for Christ's sake. While I've always been obsessed with horror to the point of it defining my personality, I hadn't yet made it my life's mission to seek out the most diabolical and depraved cinema on earth. And from what I remember, I did not have a good time with this one initially. The gore was admittedly a little bit too much for me, and biggest crime of all, the film didn't even really have a plot above mad scientist kidnaps a couple and tortures them. Oh sweet Jonjo, little did you know that this cinematic scenario is extremely common in horror, but not only that, you'd end up growing to love it. Also, you're never gonna be a rapper, she is lying, you're not crazy, and dad never gets better at art. I know. Well, for the second week of you February, we're going to be taking a look at this Japanese gem to see if there's anything more to it than the usual cutting pieces off of them until they die narrative. But before we do that, I just want to remind you, you can see this video completely uncut over at patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons for as little as $1 a month. As viewers of last week's video will tell you, the movies that I'm reviewing this month require quite a lot of Nicolas Cage, so if you want to see the indescribable brutality going on behind the Golden God's eyes, click the link in the description and the comments. Another thing that regular viewers know, I'm currently running a GoFundMe to get me to New York City. It's a trip that honestly could be massive for the channel and I really need your help to get there. Unbelievably, we're only £360 away from the minimum target, so we need your help to push us over the top. Go to gofundme.com/help Jonjo Lyons take Manhattan to donate anything you can, big or small, it's all massively appreciated. I'm going to be featuring on a horror podcast out there and I'm going the same weekend that Scream 6 comes out. And as a special bonus this week, this is my audition to be the killer in Scream 7. Hey, Sydney, you what's your favorite scary movie? Sydney! Scene. But anyway, the doctor's hands are washed and he's ready to go, so let's not waste any more time. Get ready to see how long a head can stay cognitive after being completely severed from its body. This is Grotesque. The movie begins in this tunnel as we join the doctor chilling in his van. He watches this couple as they walk by and grabs this chunky hammer. He then pops out to say hello. Cut to the opening credits as piano plays on the radio and we drive. We hear the woman start to whimper when the doctor pulls over and quietens her down with his hammer before pulling away. Cut to the woman, Aki, waking up strapped to a table. The doctor checks her restraints, then turns the man, Kazuo, around so the two are facing each other. He shushes them and strokes Kazuo's hair before asking him if he wants to be first or second.
どっち?
Come on, chicken, answer the question. We've got lots to do and not enough time to do it. With no clear answer, the doctor takes it upon himself to grab this ice pick looking thing and shove it into his mouth before giving him a quick poke in the ribs. The good doctor then turns to Aki and slowly steps towards her. He then takes her chin in his hand and licks her face before returning to his workbench where he retrieves some wake-up juice for Kazuo. He pops it on his nose, which perks him up, then fingers Kazuo's wound, causing him to throw up. The doctor comments on the sweet scent as Kazuo does a little dance. Aki begs to be saved when the doctor asks if she wants him to save Kazuo. She says yes, and he then asks if she would die for him. She shakes her head no as tears begin to fall and we cut to the couple having a nice meal together. She tells Kazuo he has something on his face and then they talk about Aki being offered a marriage proposal by her company chief's friend. She says she declined, much to Kazuo's relief, and he goes to ask her something before bailing at the last second. Aki presses him and he asks if she has a boyfriend. She says she doesn't, then asks Kazuo if he has a girlfriend, and he gives the same answer. Kazuo then tells Aki he likes her, that it was love at first sight when she joined the company, and asks if she'll go out with him. She tells him to pump the brakes a little as this is only their first date, and Kazuo agrees. Cut to the couple walking. Kazuo asks Aki if she's having fun, and she says she is. They continue to chat before taking a turn down a familiar looking tunnel. Aki then asks Kazuo if he would die for her, and he stops. She says she was joking, taking his hand when he says if it comes to it, he'll do his best. We then see a slightly longer version of the doctor saying hello. Cut back to the doctor's lair as he takes Kazuo's gag out and unties his arms, causing the man to throw up on the floor. He briefly tries to fight with the doctor, but is quickly restrained and gagged again. What was the point of that then? So he wouldn't choke on his own vomit? Doesn't seem very villainous of you. The film fades to black and we cut to some time later as Kazuo sleeps and Aki herself. She hears a loud bang and the lights turn on as the doctor enters with coffee and cake. He puts on music, sips his coffee and takes a bite of the cake before commenting on how good the whipped cream is, calling it an exciting experience. He then asks them how many times they've had sex, with the pair confirming they never have. He then asks if they're dating and the pair don't answer. He asks Aki if she likes Kazuo and she again doesn't answer. The doctor then turns to Kazuo and asks him the same question, to which he nods yes. The doctor asks if he would die for her, and after a moment a tear runs down his cheek and he once again nods yes. He then says that either way they are both going to die here, but there is a way out.
君たちに求めるのは感動。君たちの生命力で僕を感動させてくれたら。
Cut to a montage of the doctor getting them ready for the fun times ahead, set to a mellow hip-hop beat for some reason.
準備しよう。
He cleans off Aki and seals Kazuo's wound, then pushes the pair closer together. He then lifts Aki's skirt, exposing her underwear, and orders Kazuo to look. Aki is told to open her eyes and look at Kazuo as he looks at her nethers. The doctor then removes her underwear and wipes her down once again before popping on some music. Aki starts to have a panic attack, so the doctor tries to calm her down, telling her to slowly breathe in and out. He says he'll be nice to her, so relax, then starts to undress her, cutting away each article of clothing and removing it until her particulars are exposed. He turns her to face front and starts running his fingers up and down her body before kissing her feet, legs, shepherd's pie, tum-tum, and licking all the way up to her boobs as Kazuo watches on. He then moves back down to her devil's food cake and has a quick munch before strumming her ukulele with such skill that eventually she squirts all over him. Respect. He then walks over to Kazuo and shows off his hand, now soaked in Aki's lady liquid, before rubbing it under his nose. On the one hand, he is showing off, literally rubbing it in your face, but on the other, he did just give you a taste of that sweet forbidden nectar, so maybe he's not all bad. The doctor takes Aki's gag out as she twitches in a post-orgasm haze, then turns her back to Kazuo. The doctor then starts whacking Kazuo off, who doesn't seem to be a fan. He asks Aki if she thinks it will reach, then tells her to look at him. She watches as Kazuo gets cry-whacked until he sprays a fat load over her stomach. Judging by the distance and amount, you've got to congratulate Kazuo given the circumstances. I can literally hear my dad licking his lips from the other side of town. Cut to the couple now facing forward. The doctor gives Aki water and tells her she will not speak unless he asks her a question or he'll put the gag back on. She agrees to this and the doctor touches her up some more, telling her she's still wet. He then orders her to tell him to kill her.
殺してください。殺してください。
The doctor then removes Kazuo's gag, waters him, and gives him the same instructions. He then tells them the real pain starts now, advising they work hard on exciting him. Kazuo begs to be let go, saying they won't talk to anyone about this, when the doctor silences him. Cut to Kazuo waking up lying down when we see the doctor is now in full surgeon garb, which cannot be good. He wakes up Aki and we hear the familiar noise of Extreme Horror's favourite surgical tool, the chainsaw, which he uses to turn Kazuo's hands into mincemeat. He powers down the saw and picks up the fingers Kazuo so recklessly dropped and puts them in a bowl before wrapping the man's wounds. He then makes a necklace out of the fingers and hangs them around Aki's neck, telling her how good she looks and suggesting they give Kazuo a gift back in return. He grabs the saw once more, cuts Aki's right hand to pieces in the same way, then goes to do the same to the left when Aki screams out for him to stop. He tells her he didn't ask her a question and now she must be punished. The doctor grabs these chunky scissors, cuts open her nightdress and then removes her nipples. Ugh, awful. I don't know what it is, but I'm really not a fan of nipple removal. He then grabs his surgical chainsaw and uses it to remove Aki's entire right arm. So in retrospect, I guess the nipple removal isn't that bad. Cut to Aki waking up sometime later and seeing her now dressed stumps. The doctor says he treated her wound so she wouldn't die, then gives Kazuo his necklace. He comments on how cute Aki's finger is before shoving it up Kazuo's nose, which he pops out before screaming at the doctor. He asks again if Kazuo would die for her, then gives him the bad news.
今から君を責める。もうぐっちゃぐちゃにしていく。君が降参したら、その後は彼女を責める。
Well, cut to the doctor grabbing a hammer and some super long nails.
こいつがここに刺さるんだ。痛いよ。
I give in! I give in! Torture her, mate! I'm out! He reassures Kazuo, saying it's okay to give in, and even though he said he'd die for her before, not to worry. Humans are like that. He again asks if he surrenders, and Kazuo looks at Aki before shaking his head no. The doctor then nails Kazuo's ballsack to the table. Jesus Christ! Oh, what the f? You didn't say anything about the penis! Not the penis, doctor, please! Doc says he's gonna sever it so Kazuo will never be able to have sex again. Joke's on you, still got a mouth. Even limbless, I could be one of those sex seats that streamers sit on. Ride my face to hell, mother f. By the end, I want to look like I got hit by a ghost all covered in rectoplasm. He checks to see if Kazuo gives up, but he shakes his head. The doctor comments on what a chilling look Kazuo just gave him and decides instead to destroy his eye first. Oh, come on, Doc, you've had his eye out. Please, can we just leave the penis alone? The doctor goes to start work when Aki pipes up again, telling him to stop. He asks her who said she could speak and moves towards her when Kazuo moans, stopping him. The doctor again asks if he should stop, and again Kazuo shakes his head no. He then cuts his right the f off his body. He tells the couple that they've won. He won't let them die and starts quickly patching up Kazuo as Aki watches on. Cut to the couple in a lovely white hospital room. Kazuo gives Aki the thumbs up and tells her it's alright, they're lucky to be alive. She asks him if he was ready to die and Kazuo admits he was scared shitless, but as he promised he did his best. He then tells her they must get out of hospital alive now and Aki agrees. The psycho doctor then enters with flowers asking how they're doing and advising their bodies are still weak and they must stay here until their strength comes back. He says he wants to care for them to the end in return for the excitement they gave him. Aki again pipes up asking why they should trust him and demanding to be released now, but the doctor just tells her to calm down.
とんでもないことしたことには変わりがないから、僕のことを信用できないのはしょうがないよね。だから態度で示すしかないと思ってるんだ。
How about a quick finger blasted to take the edge off, eh? Not that I can f***ing do it myself now, eh? Aki calls him selfish and Kazuo quite rightly tells her to drop it.
やめとこう。いいんだ。
Shut the f*** up! All is forgiven. No harm, no foul. Remember old penisless over here, yeah? The doctor agrees he is selfish, but with this selfishness, he'll be devoted to them. He then reveals they are chained to their beds and says they'll need to wear these in order to stop them from running away on their own. He says they need to rest, and even though he's like this, he's a pretty good doctor. As soon as they can move, he'll put them in a car, take them to the police, and turn himself in. He'll also liquidate his property to compensate them.
7億ぐらいだけど、あの感動に比べたらゴミみたいなもんだからさ。
Oh, 700 mil, you say? Well, why don't you start with that? Maybe this wouldn't have been such an ordeal. Cut to Aki enjoying her meal as Kazuo reads. We can't see the title of what he's reading, but I'm assuming it's Milking the Prostate for Beginners. Aki says since this whole torture thing ended, the doctor has been really devoted. Kazuo wonders what's going on in the doctor's head, while Aki says she feels like he's really going to let them go. Kazuo agrees that he might, before adding he's definitely insane. Aki then says when they get out, even though she is crippled, she would like to help Kazuo out. You better let her have a read of your book, mate. Kazuo agrees and thanks Aki, and she smiles, saying she'll do her best. I bet you will, love. Kazuo says he's so happy he wants to take a dump. And the two laugh. Kazuo buzzes for assistance and Aki says it never takes him more than 30 seconds to come. Lol. They then talk about some other mystery thing that's killing Aki, wondering if the doctor has noticed. Doc enters and Kazuo lets him know that he needs to go number 2. The doctor leaves, then returns with a bedpan and a screen as we fade to black. Cut to the doctor cleaning Aki's stump, checking Kazuo's eye, and then taking a look at the empty void where his penis used to be. And this is what that area looks like now. Savage times. Cut to Kazuo trying to walk and the doctor congratulating them on their will to live. He says it's almost time and Kazuo asks if they can really go, with the doctor confirming this, saying he's finally satisfied. They'll wait 2 or 3 days, then they can leave if there are no issues. He tells them to make sure they take their medicine and leaves as the couple look into each other's eyes and hold claws. They then take their meds and we fade to black. The end! Well, I really didn't think the movie would finish like that. And it doesn't. Cut to Aki waking up back in the doctor's surgery.
言っとくけど、感動したのは本当だよ。だから、もっと感動させてほしいんだよな。
Ah, what a little rascal, eh? He says it's not that he's breaking his promise, but they haven't excited him to the point where he'd let them go. He then tells Kazuo it's his turn. Which is bullshit, by the way. Last time we were in here, you had my off. Surely it's her turn. Doc says he's gonna slice Kazuo's stomach open and pull out the tip of his intestines. Sure. Why the f not?
肛門の近くの腸の一番最後のあたりをメスで切り取った。そしたらそれを俺につなぐ。
Are you having a laugh, mate? Worst thing you did to her was make her Now you're gonna do what with my anus? Then Doctor picks up the scissors and shows them to Kazuo, saying if he can reach them, he can use them to cut himself free of his intestines and then cut through Aki's ropes. And if he does this, the Doctor will release her.
まあ君は助からないだろうけど。どう？ロマンチックじゃない？
Kind of. Yeah. The Doctor then places the scissors back down and grabs the scalpel, telling Kazuo to excite him. He tells him to be strong, then cuts him open, pulls his guts out and hangs them on the hook as Kazuo vomits from the pain. The Doctor then unties him, allowing Kazuo to immediately collapse to the floor. Cue a wholesome pep talk.
じゃあ彼女がもっと犯しまくってザクザクに切り刻んで死んでもらうかな。君ならと思って期待したんだけど。やっぱダメか？
With that, Kazuo gets to his feet and stumbles over to Aki as the Doctor cheers him on. Kazuo suddenly collapses again before pulling himself up once more and crawling over to the scissors. He reaches them, turns over and chops through his intestines. He then continues to crawl toward Aki, reaching her and cutting the rope tying her feet. Kazuo struggles to his feet, gets to the next rope and starts cutting when the couple find out the horrible truth. Through the center of the rope runs a metal wire. The Doctor says it will take some time, but they can cut through it, and although Kazuo is able to try for a moment longer, he soon succumbs to his wounds. R.I.P. Kaz, no one can say that you didn't try, eh? Hope someone's massaging your prostate in heaven. Cut to the Doctor putting on some more classical music and stepping towards Aki with the chainsaw. He tells her to show him the last of her will to live, but she is unresponsive. He slaps her and she shoots him daggers, which the Doctor enjoys. She then spits in his face, which I assume he enjoys more. He slaps her again when Aki decides to give it back, telling the Doctor she knows his mother.
あんたの母親見たことあるよ。ん？今でもこれたちもやってる。派手な化粧のデブのババアでしょ。
Oh sh!
ばい菌まみれのバイタの豚だよ。間違いないよ。顔がそっくりだしさ。
She then says that Thing is the same too, bringing up the mysterious subject her and Kazuo were mentioning earlier. The doctor doesn't know what she's talking about, and Aki says she pities him. She assumes the man never had many friends, asking if she's right, especially girls. They make faces and won't come near him. Only whores like his mother or gold diggers would have sex with him. She says he never had a single woman love him and asks if he knows why.
あんたもあんたの母親もものすごい脇がだよ。脇が臭いの。
And so the big twist is he's a stinky boy. And with that, the doctor starts up his chainsaw. The doctor then grabs his axe, lines up his hit and swings. What the actual f? For the YouTube viewers, what we're looking at here is a severed head flying up in the air, then coming down onto the doctor's neck and intentionally biting into the flesh. Truly a sight to behold. Well done. Well done. He tears the head off him, leaving a gaping wound in his neck when Kazuo comes back to life and slices the doctor's ankle, sending him crashing to the ground. Kazuo looks into his love's eyes, the doctor's flesh filling her mouth, and then he finally dies, as does Aki. Cut to some time later as the doctor hangs his scissors on the couple's grave planks, pours salt on them maybe, then hobbles away, showing us they are the newest addition to his graveyard. Cut to the doctor watching a new woman approach his van as he puts on deodorant. He then grabs his hammer and smiles before exiting the vehicle. The end! Well, that is nowhere near as bad as I remembered it. Grotesque is another one of those films that could so easily be dismissed as a gore fest with nothing else to offer, and going in, that was exactly my opinion. I remembered it being very similar to American Guinea Pig in its total lack of character depth, but upon rewatching it, I was pleasantly surprised to find I was wrong, for the most part. That being said, the story is as basic as they come. Mad Doctor kidnaps a couple of victims and tortures them to death. What sets Grotesque apart from the billion other films of this nature is the attempt to flesh out the characters and give them each their own emotional journey. Aki starts off as the timid wallflower victim, there to be taken advantage of and abused, but as the story progresses, we see her push back against her tormentor more and more. Then by the end, when everything has been taken from her, she stands up to the doctor, mocking him and taking the power back. She's filled with such rage at the film's close that she's able to bite into the doctor even after having her head severed from her body, and to me that's commitment. Kazuo also takes a similar journey, again starting off the film as a weak, unassuming man with a good heart who goes through hell but never wavers. At the start of the film, he makes a promise to Aki, and you can see that this is something he does not take lightly. By the end, Kazuo's honor and determination is clear as he tries to cut Aki's bindings, doing everything he can to help until his very last breath. The doctor's journey is an interesting one as it runs in opposition to Aki's. He of course starts out with all the power, but in those last few moments we see how easily it is taken away from him. The way his face subtly drops as the truth of his stench dawns on him is so masterfully underplayed here that it really gives Aki's small victory weight. Even though the killer wins on paper, when we see that last shot of him putting on deodorant in his van, we know that in death Aki took a piece of him to hell with her, leaving her mark on him forevermore. Each character ends the film in a different place emotionally, meaning the lack of story becomes less of an issue. There's a progression throughout beside waiting to see what horrible thing the doctor does next, and because of this depth you really do end up feeling for the main characters, which in a film of this nature is incredibly rare. Most importantly, all the performers sell their characters especially well, from Aki's fear and eventual rebellion to Kazuo's struggle and the doctor's enjoyment given away to embarrassment and rage. No one, not even the doctor, is hamming it up here, and it's that genuine believable acting that elevates the film above torture porn in my opinion. Speaking of torture, the gore's alright. Honestly, I don't know what past me was so impressed and disgusted by. Yeah, the chainsawing of limbs, Kazuo's de-penising and guts getting pulled out, and Aki's eventual decapitation were fun, but other than that, we don't really have much here. The bull torture is way more tame than I remember, but I suppose it's a credit to the film that I thought it was going to be way worse from memory. For most people, maybe this would be a difficult film to get through, but for me, just coming off of American Guinea Pig, it was nothing special in that department. In terms of the presentation, the film looks fine enough. As you all know, I love me some single location storytelling, and the film filmmaker makes the most of the Doctor's lair, giving us some nice visuals. The music throughout is provided by the tapes the Doctor plays, and the juxtaposition of the classical and the violence is nice, if a bit unoriginal. Nothing about the presentation is especially impressive, but given the character work on display, as with the lack of story, it isn't really much of an issue. All in all, I have a brand new appreciation for Grotesque. While the gore isn't as insane as I remember it being, the characters and the care in both writing and performance really took me by surprise. This is an example of a gore film that's also an attempt at quality cinema rather than just gore for gore's sake. I'll be really interested to see what else the filmmaker has done since, and hope we can find something just as emotionally resonating with even more savage violence. If you're looking for something up that also has a genuine heart, I can easily recommend Grotesque for you and your partner this Valentine's Day. So that was my review of Grotesque. What do you lot think? It's funny how time can change your perception of a film. I was pleasantly surprised by this one. Definitely give it a rewatch if it's been a minute. It's also funny how shocked I was by this one back in the day. Not to say it doesn't get brutal. Raise a glass for Kazuo's cock and balls. They possibly get the worst treatment. Speaking of which, if you want to see the Doctor holding Kazuo's blood-soaked chode in his hand completely uncut and early, head over to patreon.com/Jonjo Lyons. There you can find the uncut version of this review, plus others with more stuff being added all the time. We got the uncut reviews, Patreon exclusive reviews, slasher comic breakdowns, commentaries coming soon, and the Discord. And all that can be yours for as little as $1 a month. You can pledge more, I really appreciate it, but as I've said, if you're gonna do that, go and take the extra money and put it into the GoFundMe. Over the last few weeks, we've been able to raise over £1,100 for a trip that could potentially change everything, and I can't thank you enough. Please help us reach the minimum target as soon as we can, so we can hopefully go for those stretch goals, and maybe I can spend a bit more time in one of the greatest cities in the world. Pledges over £20 get a small commission from the superstar Taylor Stone King, like these. For over £50 you get a free jar replica. It's not my actual and for over £100 you get all that cool stuff, plus a direct video message from me where I'll say whatever up you want to whoever you want, as long as it's not like a hate crime or whatever. To donate and receive those perks, just go to gofundme.com/help Jonjo Lyons take Manhattan. I really do appreciate it more than you'll ever know. So that's it for another week. Like the video, leave a comment, and click subscribe if you haven't already. My name's Jonjo Lyons, and what a terrible bedside manner. Still better than your mum though. She's all teeth. Can you get her to work on that for me, please? Cheers.